You spent years making sure no one feels uncomfortable around you. You watched your words. You softened your tone. You stayed agreeable. You made space for everyone. But here's the question you've been avoiding. Who made space for you? Don't have an answer, and that's the problem. Let me tell you something most people don't want to admit. Being nice isn't always about being kind. Sometimes it's about being safe. Safe from conflict, safe from rejection, safe from being misunderstood. And if that made something tighten in your chest, that's not random. That's recognition. Because there's a version of niceness that has nothing to do with kindness. It's a strategy, a way to move through life without drawing attention, a way to avoid problems. And you didn't just invent it, you learned it. Maybe you grew up in a place where speaking up made things worse. Maybe staying quiet kept the peace. Maybe being easy made life smoother for everyone else. So you adjusted. You became the calm one, the understanding one, the one who doesn't complain, the one who doesn't push back. And it worked. People liked you. They trusted you. They came to you. They leaned on you. You became the person everyone could rely on. And for a while, that felt good. It felt like proof that you were doing something right. So you kept going. You said yes when you wanted to say no. You agreed when you didn't agree. You helped when you were already tired. You stayed quiet when you had something to say. And slowly, something changed. It stopped being a choice. It became who you are, or at least who you think you are. Because now, if you stop being nice, who are you? That question scares you, because the truth is, you don't really know anymore. You've spent so much time being what other people needed, you forgot what you need. Or maybe you stopped believing your needs matter. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. When you're always the nice one, people get used to it, not in a grateful way, in an expecting way. Your time becomes assumed. Your energy becomes available. Your patience becomes automatic. And the moment you hesitate, they're confused. Because in their mind, this is who you are, the person who always says yes. But that didn't happen by accident. You taught them that. You showed them over and over again that you don't have limits, that you don't get tired, that you don't need anything. And they believed you, not because they're bad people, because you made it believable. You smiled. You didn't complain. You made it look easy. So they thought it was easy. Meanwhile, you're exhausted, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, deeply tired in a way sleep doesn't fix, because this kind of exhaustion doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from being someone you're not all the time. It comes from saying yes when everything inside you says no. It comes from smiling through discomfort. It comes from choosing other people over yourself again and again. That's not kindness, that's self-betrayal. And you can only betray yourself so many times before something starts to break. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. A slow shift. You feel it in small moments, the irritation you can't explain, the frustration that builds up, the heaviness in your chest. That's resentment, and it's there. You might not say it out loud, but you feel it. You're angry at them for asking so much. You're angry at yourself for giving so much. But you stay silent because speaking up feels wrong, feels risky, feels like you'll lose something. So you keep it inside, and it grows. Here's the truth you don't want to hear. They didn't take advantage of you. You taught them how to treat you. You showed them that your needs are optional, that your comfort is negotiable, that your boundaries don't exist. And they followed your lead. That's not their fault. That's the pattern you created. And I'm not saying that to blame you. I'm saying it because it gives you power. Because if you created it, you can change it. You can stop performing. You can stop pretending you're always fine. You can start being honest. You can say no without explaining, without apologizing, without feeling like you're doing something wrong. And yes, that will feel uncomfortable. Some people won't like it. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you selfish. They'll act like you're the problem. Let them. They're not reacting to who you are. They're reacting to what they lost. The version of you that made their life easier. The version of you that never pushed back. And losing that feels inconvenient to them. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. Because something else happens too. When you stop saying yes to everything, you start saying yes to yourself. You get your time back, your energy back, your space back. That constant tension starts to fade. You sleep better, you think clearer, you feel lighter. And slowly, you start to remember who you are. Not the version of you that everyone needed, the real version. The one with opinions, the one with limits, the one with needs. Some people will leave when that happens. That's real. Some people were never there for you. They were there for what you provided, and losing them will hurt, but keeping them costs you more. Because the people who stay, they're different. They respect you. They listen to you. They see you. Not just what you do, you. And that changes everything. Because this isn't about becoming cold. It's not about shutting people out. It's about balance. You can be kind without disappearing. You can care without carrying everything. You can help without hurting yourself. That's real kindness, and it includes you. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that requires you to vanish. Not your family, not your friends, not your work. You owe yourself honesty. You owe yourself rest. You owe yourself the right to take up space, to say no, to have needs, to be human. There was a time when you didn't hide like this, when you spoke freely, when you asked what you wanted, when you didn't shrink to make others comfortable. That version of you didn't disappear. It got buried under years of trying to be liked, but it's still there, waiting. And here's the truth you need to hear. Being liked was never supposed to cost you being yourself. You don't have to disappear to be accepted. You don't have to silence yourself to be valued. And the moment you stop doing that, everything changes. Because the world doesn't need another person who is easy to deal with. It needs someone real, and that someone is you.